So yeah, welcome everyone. It's so awesome to have you all here for this exciting session about like AI and NFTs and how you guys actually leveraged on the technology of AI and blockchain and combined both things and created something that's pretty unique and unusual. And I'm super happy to welcome Rania, who is moderating this nice session with the two of you. And now that the sun just like crosses Rania's head almost. And so yeah, I would like just give it up to Rania and leave it to her for the next 20 minutes.
Cool. Well, thank you, CJ and Kian, for both joining. This is like my favorite way to geek out, and I'm so excited to talk to both of you about the first ever AI-driven rap NFT that you both dropped, Black Skin Machine. I'm really curious to hear more thoughts from you, CJ, about the 8,000 discographies that you trained. And Kian, you worked with Rihanna and Kanye West. I'm really curious to hear from you what your initial reaction was working with AI and how you found it really inspiring and the way you produced this track. And so to start off, maybe it'd be cool to get a little backstory about how this collaboration happened. How did you two meet? Kian, if you want to kick off with, yeah, how did this all start off with this AI experimentation and lead to an NFT drop?
Wow. Yeah, maybe it might be best if CJ starts that off because it definitely started with CJ, but I've been following his work for a few years now. Yeah.
Yeah, so Kian and I met on Twitter.
Something like that.
Something like that. And I don't know, we were just like throwing jokes back and forth for years. And I don't know, Kian, you're just like one of the funniest people that I know. And I'm like, okay, we got to work on something. We got to end up working on something. And so NVIDIA kind of reached out to Dadabots about doing this arts residency for the GTC conference, which is a conference that I presented at before with a poster. And they're like, okay, let's do some AI music stuff because there's not enough AI music being represented. So, you know, what can we do? And I was like, let's do black metal. And they were like, no, PR, yikes. How about something nicer? And so I threw a bunch of genres at them, like funk, and they're like, okay, yeah, we should do funk. And I'm like, oh, okay, this would be great to, like, I know Kian is just an amazing like experimental hip hop producer. He could do a remix of all this funk stuff. So we ended up generating 12 hours of funk soul. And it's yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and then I started like combing through it and just going on that daily process of just doing car rides and listening to just like the folders that you had sent and seeing which samples to go with, and like making mental notes was like super cool. Yeah, it was a crazy process, and CJ is amazing, and I'm just super glad that we got to do that collab and just working on many more. You know?
Did you have many goosebump moments, and do you remember like some of the most notable initial reactions that you felt when you first heard some of the samples back? And did you have like any kind of expectation before you listened to any of the stuff? I'm always curious to know when people get into AI, like did anything change along the process? Like how maybe you viewed AI before you worked with it, and then do you feel different now after the whole process?
I didn't feel necessarily different than my views on AI before, because I always expected to be a part of the creative process to where we can create something that's largely missing from society. So CJ and I teaming up always had, I think, that goal just central to our mission and central to our collabs. So it was surprising to hear what it came up with, but it's like still a certain trajectory to where it's headed, which wasn't surprising. And it's that soulful element of just hearing a different voice, hearing that diversity and variety of like ethnic voice on something AI generated was just mind-boggling. But it's like, what happens when we can mix voices into one voice from a variety of people, from a variety of continents? So it just like, it opened up a realm for sure. Yeah.
And CJ,
I forgot the other question that you had actually. What was that? What was the second question?
I think you actually answered the second question first, which was if you felt any different about AI
Okay.
along your process. But I'm going to come back to hearing, I'm going to probe you with some more questions about your process. And I love that, CJ, you're just diving into so many genres. We've seen Dadabots get into death metal to Adam Neely bass solo music, and hearing like the funk and soul stuff, the audio fidelity sounds so good. How was your approach for this project different to your previous AI training projects?
Sure. So generating funk requires this like regularity of pulse in the rhythm. So it has to be 4/4. And so that's completely different from our earlier approaches. Earlier, we were using sample RNN, which is really good for making chaotic music, like textural, chaotic, mathy music, like math rock, death metal, free jazz, breakcore. All that really works with sample RNN. But with funk and like a lot of other dance genres, it's got to be 4/4. So for this, we used Jukebox. And just as a correction, Jukebox was pre-trained on 8,000 discographies. And then, you can further fine-tune train it. Jukebox is much different because it's like a top-down generator. So it starts from a bird's eye point of view, like a compositional level, and then upsamples it, and then upsamples it. And this allows us to, think about long-term patterns, like 4/4, like riffs and structures, and then fill in the details. So yeah, that was quite a different approach.
Very cool. And how did you get onto the topic of NFTs, and what was that whole minting process like for you both? Was it something that, Keyon, have you experimented on other projects? And what was your initial thoughts on it? And where do you see the future of NFT impact on music moving?
Sweet. Crazy question. What do you mean about experimented on other projects?
Like, have you thought about minting other music before this project with CJ?
Okay.
It got like, I mean, I remember hearing it and I just thought, yes, finally, there's some funk soul rap AI audio stuff happening. I was waiting for CJ to start diving into this genre, so I was really excited. And I mean, the way you put the track together was so cool. And were you already like in the NFT space quite a lot? And what are your thoughts on NFTs in general?
It was just like a spur of the moment thing. I think it just developed pretty organically. Some of the artists, like graphic artists that I've been working with, were getting into super rare, and I had seen a clear transition of paying these artists to commission them for work, but they kind of exponentially had less and less time for just regular projects and regular commissions. So a lot of them were closing their commissions and going to the NFT community because it's way better than having to fulfill commissions. And so I guess I kind of caught wind of it then, but that was like maybe December last year. So I don't know, just seeing the development of the NFT community really inspired me to look into the technology, and seeing what CJ did with Byte Beats is just crazy on art blocks, and that's kind of like first of its kind stuff there. So it's like naturally what we're doing is first of its kind stuff too, and it was just kind of organic to look at that avenue to put out our creation. Yeah.
Very cool. And what would you say was the most inspiring for you to work with technology in this way for music making? And do you have any ideas of new inspirations that came along the process that you would like to try?
For sure. For me, it's all about, I think, latching onto and grabbing these neural artifacts from the future is kind of like traveling through space and not knowing what kind of planet you'll come across. It's like the greatest sci-fi movie ever. Like literally the greatest sci-fi movie ever, of just being able to explore and find something new. And you're gonna find something new. So there was 12 hours of audio, but it's like going through the vastness of space with a limited fuel supply, and you just have weirdly faith that you're going to come across something that at least your species is not privy to or has never been privy to. That's pretty much the process of working with CJ, working with the crazy code, just like getting things that are new that seem like you're remembering some huge part of society from the future. So it's like with us, we're super focused on creating the future of sound, creating the future of sampling, and being able to sample something that gives you, in a weird way, hindsight bias about the future. And like, when you hear a song that's your new favorite song, and you feel like you've heard it before, but you've never heard it before, it's kind of like triggering those responses on a deep neuronal way in your own neural network, with artificial neural networks. So yeah, the process has been crazy. We're turning out some great stuff, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it.
Oh, so cool. Yeah, I was going to ask about any new stuff that you're working on. I had a browse through the dome of all that audio that you just mentioned. I mean, the whole interface and the experience is so crazy. And I definitely got those goosebump moments of like nostalgia coming through, but the aesthetic, like the sound is so different. So it's like old school meets new school, but from an alien or something. So I love your reference of like space and sci-fi, and definitely has that vibe.
For sure. That's how CJ made the dome. It was like exploring like a spaceship, and you're just pressing things, pressing letters and stuff. It's just great. I love it.
Yeah. So CJ, with all this audio that you've been working on, with these 12 hours of audio that you've generated, have you come across any copyright issues? Have you tried any interesting tests on your side? Because it was trained on 8,000 discographies, right, from existing funk soul artists.
But yeah, so one problem that you get with neural nets is that there's always the risk of overfitting. That's when it just spits out this trained data verbatim. And obviously with music, you don't want it to do that. You want it to make something new. So how do you test that? So actually, the other half of Dadabots who couldn't make it here, Zach, he works at PEX, and they have this giant fingerprinting system that has fingerprints for all published music from the major independent everybody labels. They have fingerprints for all of YouTube and SoundCloud, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what we did was we ran all 12 hours of this stuff through that fingerprinting, and and it's great at the end when you finish the search, Peck says like reached the end of the universe. And so there was no example of any copying, like sampling, that fingerprinting service could find, and they're the best fingerprinting. They're better than Content ID. So that's a good sign. So here we felt pretty confident that we could release this, and if anybody sampled it, they're not going to get copyright flagged. And our intention was to release it public domain. So like you don't even have to give us credit. You could just go and use it. And this is because, you know, like the origins of hip hop is, you know, sampling funk specifically, like in the early DJ parties with like, you know, Cool Herc. And then you have like the golden age of hip hop, the late 80s, early 90s, exemplified by like the Bomb Squad production team of Public Enemy. And, you know, they would have hundreds of records sampled in each of their albums. And it just had this really cool collage aesthetic that you don't really hear anymore in popular music or anything. Because, you know, the label started in the 90s, started suing everybody for doing that. And so you had to shift to, you know, using 808s and synths and stuff. But I don't know, like the whole collage aesthetic is awesome. So, you know, we wanted to give that back to people. So that's why we released it public domain.
Yeah, I thought that was really amazing. I mean, the whole copyright thing is crazy. This is like next level hackery with sample culture. And I guess this has been like the mind-boggling question that everyone's had about copyright and ethics. And so that was really cool that you released Dome, and everyone and anyone can go and browse through these 12 hours of audio to sample in the way that they would like. I found it really inspiring. So CJ, you've done a lot of NFT experiments since last year. Where do you see the future of NFT and music and art creation and minting? Are you two working on some new NFT releases? Is there anything that you can kind of share, like a sneak peek?
Oh, well, I guess philosophically, what I really like about NFTs, and especially for musicians, is that you know who your super fans are. You know, like if you're an artist publishing on Spotify, like you have no idea who's streaming your, like who's streaming it the most. You might not even know who's buying most of your merch. But like, you know, you really want to connect with those fans, and those fans really want to connect with you. And that's, you know, it's a big bummer. But because it's on blockchain, like, you know exactly who's collecting it, who's the biggest collectors, you know, who's engaging with your contract the most. And, you know, this is what we did with Bike Beats. You know, I reached out to 12 of the biggest collectors, and, you know, just chatted them up, and now we're homies, you know. And they're like, yeah, anytime you're in the Bay Area, come over and crash my couch. And, you know, that kind of vibe. So that's what I'm really excited about. Like, that's the social aspect that NFTs can bring, you know, not just more consumerism, like, you know, here, eat my digital product, but, you know, what kind of communities can you build? What kind of friends can you make because of it? That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, definitely. It's super fascinating to just witness what's happening, especially in the era of Spotify and in music. And, you know, there's so many interesting shifts happening, and everyone's been kind of, I guess, questioning how to bring value back to music. So this has definitely been one of the most interesting things just to witness happening. I'm still boggled, like it still blows my mind away that this whole culture shift has happened. What was one of the most unexpected and interesting things that you saw happen from this specific NFT drop? From like either fans reaching out or comments from press, media. Yeah, I'm just curious, like if there were some interesting insights you'd like to share.
Keyon?
I feel like the whole process is like one gigantic meta insight of just like everything is super interesting about the process, and everything was so novel to where everybody's reactions kind of revolved or were just like vibrating at the same wavelength of, we all recognize this is something new, and there's no traditional way to go about it. So the whole process was pretty interesting. I don't know, like seeing how the press reacted to it was cool, because a lot of people were like, how did you even manage to get press? Because we can't get press because everybody's trying to throw their NFTs at the press. So that was cool. And just coming at it from like more of a musical and tech perspective, and just like highlighting our collaborative process, and then collaborating kind of with NVIDIA was cool. I don't know, it's just, you definitely get to meet lots of interesting people that kind of elevate your own workflow and introduce you to new forms of artistry that I really appreciated about the whole thing. Yep.
Well, you are both prolific creators, so I'm super excited to hear what's to come from both of you. And ever since this project dropped, have you been, do you have any like dates for some of the new things that you're both working on that we can expect from you? Is there anything that you can share, or is it like in secret mode right now?
Yeah, we're kind of in stealth mode, but we do have a pretty big project dropping on Shoyu November 1st. So we're actually going to premiere as one of the first artists on that platform. And as you know, it's coming from the Sushi Swap team. So it's like a huge fan base of real, genuine crypto art people and people that are for the community, that are going to get to see us drop this, which is going to be really cool. Yeah, I guess you just got to stay tuned for what we're doing next. It's going to blow minds, and it's definitely never been done before, but not just for the purpose of being first, but for the purpose of creating something truly alien to mankind, humankind, and creating something of such an exotic taste that it's going to change everybody's palates in terms of what they think that they're used to sonically. And it's going to shift our whole world forward. That's my belief.
Wow, November 1st. Super excited. CJ?
I can't talk about it. But I can say that it's awesome, and it's a new kind of technology that I hadn't really dived into so much. A little bit, but not really the extent that we did. And just having this be an excuse to get into that was awesome.
Okay, so to be continued. I think that's you've already shared some enticing thoughts, and I'm gonna put in my calendar after this conversation and make sure that I've got November 1st to remind me to keep my eyeballs out. So just to close off, I can like geek out with both of you guys forever, and I'm just so interested to see also the format of how you're going to release your next pieces. CJ, do you have any new missions that you are working on just philosophically about like the future of AI, music, and NFTs that you would like to share? One of my favorite quotes that Time quoted you a while back was, you have this mission of allowing every 14-year-old bedroom producer be able to make music with AI.
Oh yeah, I want to push that down to 5-year-olds. And you know, with the research, we're slowly making these things faster and easier to work with and cheaper to run. You know, eventually one day, anyone with a phone can just do it. And one new direction that Dadabots has taken over is actually working with robots. So we're now working with this robot band compressor head, and they play actual instruments. There's a singer, a guitarist, a bassist, and a drummer. They play the real instruments. And we're just trying to make the whole process of composing music for the band way faster, because right now it's all manual. They compose every single motor movement, every servo and compressor, which takes a week just to even do a cover song. But of course, with algorithms, machine learning, like I just want to, here's the MIDI file, or here's the Guitar Pro tablature, go play it now. And we also have a team of PhDs at Queen Mary University that made a Guitar Pro generator with a neural net. So we're going to give the robots a brain. It's going to be awesome. And then go on tour next year.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's so crazy. Keyon, I have one last question for you. As a creator, as a music producer, working with AI, did it make you produce, like approach beat making differently, approach sound design differently, or production in general? Like what part of the process was your, let's say, your favorite thing that came out of it that kind of like changed your workflow?
Dang, a lot of stuff. Working with the noise that a neural net pumps out for music is probably the most inspiring part of the process, because it's like looking at perfection through imperfection. And if you have a really good eye, or in this case ear, you can spot that when you need to, and kind of use it as like a survival tool for creating something like your life depends on it, and putting your heart into it is definitely, it offered me like a different perspective on how to go about that survival challenge of, I have to make this song as good as I can make it, and figure out what are my tools and what can I work with, because I'm in the wild and it's something new. It's like crash landing on an alien planet. It's like that sci-fi feel of, I'm here doing some crazy, super futuristic archaeological dig on this new planet that no one's ever been to. I have to figure out how to survive. I have to figure out how to do all these things, but all that's super fun to me. So it's just doing that in a sonic way, and retrieving these beautiful neural artifacts that become embedded in the sounds and add to the actual soul, or the quintessence of what makes this sound unique from all the other trillions of sounds that I've been bombarded with my entire life. And for me, that's the most interesting thing about this process and our process, and how we're taking technology to a completely new level for music, is to be able to target new areas of your mind as to what's possible with sound, so that we can sort of uplift society in a way and present something new, instead of longing for those artifacts of the past from past instruments. So yeah.
Yes, I completely, I love everything you said. I love the glitches and the morphing and the weird, strange, even like with the voices, how sometimes you just get these weird words and lyrics that just pop out in strange ways. So yeah, thank you for closing off this conversation with your inspiring feedback. And November 1st, I'm gonna keep that in the diary. I can't wait. For everyone else, go and check out the Dome. It is wild. I like scrolled and I could spend hours and hours in there. It's so crazy. Thank you both so much. And I can't wait for us to be in like the same physical space to celebrate all of your amazing work that you've been doing. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Rania. Thank you, CJ. Thank you, Keyon. Like that was super amazing and super interesting. And it's like I like this kind of combination of like this session of like a super dope AI researcher, training person of neural networks that has done amazing things. And like this collaboration with like Keyon, who is like a hip hop pop producer who worked with Rihanna and Kanye and is now diving into this technology world and is experimenting with lots of stuff. So I hope that this inspired like lots of other people who are watching this today, and to collaborate more with like people on the non so musical, also musical, but also on the technical side, to experiment with things and open new horizons and universes of like sound and ways to engage with sound. So that was super cool. And thanks, Rania, for like these great moderation of this panel. And yeah, thanks for being here and for sharing all your thoughts with us.